Good evening. Welcome to the Glazov Gang. Tonight, a very special program, Left-Wing Jews. Here to discuss this topic with us this evening, Aaron Shuster, a writer, producer, director, who is also a scholar of Middle Eastern politics and writes on foreign and domestic political issues. Barak Lurie, a real estate attorney and the host of the Barak Lurie Show. And back by popular demand, Ari David, the host of the Ari David Show podcast, and the crowd goes wild. Gentlemen, welcome to the Glazov Gang.
Thank you.
Barak, you are a new member of the gang.
I'm honored. Thank you very much.
We don't want to scare you too much. Ari and Aaron, please tell Barak the rule of the Glazov Gang.
You have to strip naked.
No. He's making that up.
First episode.
What is? You know what? After 3 years,
I did it last week.
Okay, after 3 years, do you know the rule?
You get beaten up upon initiation, and if you want to leave, and the rule is you can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave.
Excellent. You can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave, and you are now a lifelong member. Are you excited? Okay.
I'm very excited.
Before we begin, on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you to be on the Glazov Gang, Aaron?
11.
11 out of 10. Barak?
This one goes to 11.
11?
40,000.
Okay, fantastic. Tonight, I think this is more relevant than ever for many reasons. We are focusing in on the phenomenon of left-wing Jews. And Aaron Shuster put this idea in my head last week, and that's why we have gathered here this evening. Aaron, what is on your mind?
Oh, a lot. I mean, I think more than ever, I would love to see our left-wing Jewish colleagues start to move over to the Republican Party, because now it is more apparent than ever whose side our dear leader is on. Barack Hussein Obama has been showing who his allegiances are really to while he's negotiating a secret treaty with Iran, and he's inviting the Muslim Brotherhood into a secret meeting. They wouldn't release even the names of the guests until they were pressured by the media to the White House. And we see that the way he's been turning Bibi Netanyahu into a pariah and trying to have Democrats not attend his speech at Congress. We see which side he's on now. And it's apparent, I think, for any left-wing Jew who cares about Israel and the destiny of the Jewish people, that they're with a party that is aligned with elements that are very antagonistic towards Israel and Jews.
But just a sec, that's where I want to interrupt for a minute, because you just made an assumption that left-wing Jews care about Israel. And I think that this is part of the problem. So wait, I don't mean to be speaking for you. I just want to narrow in on this now. Ben Shapiro has done a magnificent video at Truth Revolt. Everybody should see it if you haven't. Why do Jews vote leftist? Just Google it or go to Truth Revolt and watch Ben Shapiro's video on this issue. Now, he, as he says, 78% of Jews voted for Obama in 2008, 69% voted for Obama in 2012. Now, and it's very clear that the Democratic Party, the left, Obama, are against, traditionally, overall, more or less, Israel's interests, at least in the recent while, especially with Jimmy Carter, etc., going back to Jimmy Carter now with Obama. And Shapiro narrows in on one thing, that many of these American Jews are not religious, that in some ways they're trying to shed themselves of their Judaism, and so they don't want to support Israel by showing that they're perhaps not Jewish in some ways. Barak?
Yeah, this is a very important distinction. And first of all, I want to make it clear, let's lay our ground rules here. We should only refer to the president as Obama, please, not Barack Obama. Otherwise, you'd be poisoning a perfectly good first name. Just want to say that out there.
That's fair enough.
Thank you very much. Now, to define our terms, I think that you have to look at that there are Jews and there are Jews. But not so with Christians. Christians are Christians. If you were to ask somebody if they're a Christian, or if they are to define themselves as a Christian, in your mind, it means that they go to church, it means they believe that Jesus is their Savior, and a bunch of other things associated with Christianity. If somebody tells you he's a Jew, that can mean almost anything. It can mean somebody who goes to synagogue all the time and embraces the Ten Commandments and studies Torah every day, or it can mean a left-wing atheist communist. They're both Jews. That's a very big distinction and an important one, and that's what Ben Shapiro is talking about. But if you look at just the graph only on the conservative side to see how they line up politically, you'll notice a direct correlation, not just a scattered kind of trending sort of graph, but a direct correlation showing that the more observant you are as a Jew, the more conservative you are politically. It's very direct.
And in some ways, the American Jew or the Western Jew that is like, let's say, on the side even of the Palestinians or against Israel or voting Democrat, somewhere between the lines, they're trying to say, I'm not a Jew anymore, please like me. Would that be fair to say? Ari?
Yeah, many years ago in one of Alan Dershowitz's books, he wrote about the concept of Shandafer de Goyim, or the idea that many Jews feel shame to be Jewish in front of the non-Jews. And I think there's a large component to that in where a lot of Jews, along with other reasons, in their allegiance to the Democrat Party and leftist political philosophy, try to say something along the lines of, you know, I'm kind of embarrassed by the conduct of Israel vis-a-vis the Palestinians or any other issue. I'm kind of embarrassed by the religiosity component of Judaism. You know, I'm like you, I don't really believe, don't worry, I'm cool. Please like me, I'm not one of them.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And Aaron, let me get back to you for a minute, because I don't necessarily think we were in conflict there, because you're right at the same time when you said there are left-wing Jews that think that they support Israel or think that they support the interests of the Jewish people, but they don't vote for people that help that cause. Is there like a schizophrenia perhaps amongst a lot of them?
Maybe cognitive dissonance. You know, I mean, Alan Dershowitz actually is a perfect example of a left-wing Jew who is a very staunch supporter of Israel and Israeli causes and Israel's right to exist. And yet at the same time, you catch him apologizing for things that Obama and the Democratic Party does. It's like there's a disconnect. Like they just, because they were brought up in that culture, there's a great difficulty for them to kind of say, I'm wrong, or I have to change. You know, it's very difficult for people to change. You know, to change your identity like that is a very, like their whole lives they've been brought up thinking the GOP are evil. You know, I mean, they think it's an evil body.
Now, if you don't mind me discussing this or asking, I think it would be safe to assume that we have 3 Jewish Glazov gang members here this evening, right?
Correct.
Now, but you are perhaps in certain families or communities, would it be fair to say that you are surrounded by many left-wing Jews?
Oh, for sure. Especially, you know, I work in Hollywood, so
now,
the
do you
majority
feel
are.
the pressure of that? Can you understand that there's a certain pressure to agree with them on left-wing causes?
Well, generally speaking, I avoid talking politics with them because I know I'll get into, you know, an argument, but occasionally I do, and I just hold my ground. I don't feel the pressure of any sort.
Now, before we move on to
likewise.
Barak, in 1 or 2 sentences, what is their psychology?
Left-wing Jews?
Yeah. The people that you just mentioned that you don't want to talk to.
There's a kind of, you know, socialistic idea that the poor and downtrodden have to be, I mean, that's probably to me the main thing. You know, the poor and downtrodden are being taken advantage of in the capitalist system and they need help.
And guess what? When we build the socialist paradise and everybody will hold hands, I won't be seen as a Jew anymore and I won't be the victim of anti-Semitism. Perhaps it's this, as we said, it's the desire to shed oneself of one's Judaism and to fit in. Barak?
Yeah, I think that's very much the way I think about this as well. Look, to me, I've noticed, having been a former liberal myself, there's an association at play. The liberals that I know, and some are in my own family, they, for lack of a better description, I think they're liberal because of an association that they've made. An association that says to them, the liberals are cooler, they're more intelligent, they're more progressive, they care more. Those things are very powerful for them. And they get this from something. and they get it from the culture. Perhaps it was a boyfriend or girlfriend they had in the past that they really respected, or better yet, a professor that they really respected. And that kind of echoes throughout the rest of their lives. Very powerful stuff, and it's hard to disassociate from that. What I found also, however, and we talked before about the correlation between how observant you are, or knowledgeable, I would say, you are of the Torah and your political leanings. So what happens is this. When you understand Torah, when you are somewhat observant, not even deeply observant, you do end up in a situation where you realize, of course, conservatism, that's the only thing that makes sense. They are directly in line with each other. By contrast, liberalism is completely opposite of it. I mean, I think even Ben Shapiro, the gentleman you just mentioned, he wrote a book called How Liberalism Violates All 10 Commandments, and he's right. And the point is that when you don't have any sort of observance at all, you'll flock to anything. And what you'll flock to is what's cool. And liberalism, they made it cool.
But Barak, as Ben Shapiro pointed out in his video, Judaism, the Torah, this is not about being cool. It's conservatism.
Right. It is conservatism. The Torah is conservatism. There's virtually no classic conservative position out there that does not jibe directly with the Torah. Whether it's the death penalty, whether it's abortion, whether it's a sense of a limited government for that matter, it's all in the Torah. That is what Judaism is.
Okay, thank you.
Capitalism.
Proportional justice.
You reap what you sow.
Yeah.
Ari, go ahead. I don't think you need a question. So many profound comments.
You wanted me to say something controversial, and that's why I'm here.
I kind of nudged you before.
Yeah, and I've talked with Barak about this, and I don't think he agrees with me. So don't blame him for.
With Barack Obama or
No, Barak Lurie here.
What did we say? What
All
did
right,
I just
I
say? Barak
That's
means
the
me.
second rule of the
the
Glazov
second
game.
rule
That's
of
right.
the Glazov gang?
Right. So I think that part of this issue has to do with meaning. Part of Judaism is the quest for meaning, about asking the big questions in life. And that's one of the places the quest to discover God and study Torah is based in. But in these left-wing Jews, there is a void here. And you see many of them flocking to different trends: yoga, Kabbalah, different cults, Buddhism, for instance, Zen, all sorts of, different kind of fly-by-night belief systems. And I think part of it is a quest for meaning. And we're 2 or 3 generations removed from the event that gave, or actually 2 events that has given our people pretty much the most meaning possible: the Holocaust and the resurrection of the state of Israel. And Jews today, especially in America, have lived such good lives that have been based on materialistic riches and comfort and sybaritic pursuits that many of them have lost touch with real meaning. So I have this hunch, and I can't prove it scientifically, but I've seen it in the behaviors of the left-wing Jews I've observed, that in a sense, they have a quest for meaning, and they support left-wing causes that they know deep in their heart and subconscious are destructive in the long term for their people, in some almost sick attempt to recreate the crises of the past that they see their grandparents' generation that has gone through this, that has given their grandparents' generation great and deep meaning. Because nothing can give you more meaning than surviving the Holocaust or witnessing firsthand the resurrection of Israel.
So masochistic kind of tendencies to have some kind of meaning or derive meaning.
Yeah, by bringing about essentially their own self-destruction or the collective either destruction or great damage to their people.
Yeah, well, thank you, Ari. And look, we have a president today who just recently said that some random people were shot in a deli in Paris, when we know that the Al-Qaeda member himself had called the station from the deli itself and said he's killing these Jewish people because they're Jews, etc. So by engaging in this kind of denial, we see that somebody like Obama is fertilizing the soil for more attacks on Jewish people. What kind of a Jewish person would still support this man and support this president? Now, I know we've discussed this, but I just wanted to crystallize that image there, because this is so pernicious that I don't know how a person of the Jewish faith or part of the Jewish community or the Jewish tribe could not wash their hands of this party and this movement. Aaron.
Well, I read a very profound book by Primo Levi called The Drowned and the Saved, which was about his experiences in Auschwitz. And one of the things he said in there is that all the people who existed in the camps whose personalities or characteristics were brought out to the extreme, let's say like the concentration camp guard or the capo, they all exist around us at all times. It's just they don't have the environment to act out that behavior.
Yes.
Well, you know, it's my feeling that a lot of them have become so disassociated from Judaism. They're really ignorant of Judaism, what its core values are. They think tikkun olam is, you know, that's the Torah. Tikkun olam, let's mend the world. They think, and they don't even take it in its full context of what tikkun olam means, which is by acting out the mitzvot. They don't know about mitzvot, that's how you mend the world. So their whole philosophy on life is really based on ignorance. And they really don't even know what it means to be a Jew. I mean, I'm not a deeply religious person, but in terms of like going to shul and that sort of thing, but I respect the religion and the teachings of the religion. And the more I learn about Judaism, I become even more appreciative of its deep ethics, morality, and values at a time like when you learn about the way the Jews were so advanced in the world, like in, you know, very ancient times, like their values on so many things were so ahead of its time that it was really quite revolutionary. Like when you look at what the world was like when these little band of Jews came out and, you know, came up with the concept of the Ten Commandments, for instance.
Okay, go ahead, Barak.
Yeah, I love what Aaron said because it drills down on a very key point that Ari and I often talk about in our podcast, and that is that so many people who claim to know what the Torah says when they have no idea whatsoever. None. And that's not to say that I know what Torah means completely, but I know that I don't know it completely. How about that? Right? But I ask questions. I'll ask smarter people than me when it comes to the Torah, whether it's Dennis Prager or Ben Shapiro or a rabbi Brandon Gaines that I like very much. I'll learn from that. And I understand that this is what the position is, and I'll ask the why and so on. But I won't just race to a position because that's something I know. And Aaron's point's an interesting one. It's like the Jews who decide that tikkun olam means big government and so forth. That's almost like saying that the play Hamlet is about how to play hide and seek because of the scene with Polonius behind the drapes. Of course, it's not what it's about. You have to know the whole play about Hamlet, and you know it's about human nature and hesitation to be and not to be and so on. And that's the way it is with Judaism too. But so many of our fellow Jews have no idea what they're talking about. They have no idea about their own roots, their own traditions, and they certainly don't know even their own history and what their own faith means and what it says. And had they studied it, they would be where we are today.
And perhaps that this is actually a conscious effort on their behalf not to know, but then to simultaneously pretend that they do.
Well, wouldn't it be nicer to be able to say that Judaism means do whatever you want? Wouldn't it be nicer if Judaism meant embrace gay marriage, embrace abortion, embrace everything, and that everything is free and fun? That would be nice, but it's not what it's about. Judaism is about structure. It's about bringing out the best in yourself, being as charitable as you can, doing not just the right thing, but also understanding what the Ten Commandments are. That's what Judaism is.
And in many respects, that becomes a burden, because when you take on those things and try to live by them, you're going to get picked on more and be hated more.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I've often said that the Jew, to your point, Jamie, the Jew, who is the Jew? The Jew is that kid in 4th grade that when the substitute teacher comes in, because the main teacher is sick, and she asks, class, where are we in your lesson today? And all the other kids say, teacher, our teacher, generally speaking, lets us play right now. He lets us have a lot of fun. And the Jew, he's that kid who says, no teacher, we were on chapter 8 and we are learning about division of fractions.
Right, right,
And everyone throws stuff at him and you jerk, you idiot.
right.
But that's who the Jew is. And
That was you in school, right?
but the point is that it forces, that kid is the one moving us forward.
Right, no, absolutely.
He's insisting on structure.
Ari?
Well, Barak makes such a great point, and I'd like to extend it a little bit more, which is in our society, we've seen the last few years, going back to the late 60s, this breaking down of structure, of throwing away all accumulated knowledge and starting the world anew, the children of Aquarius. When I talk with Barak about, we talk about the concept of year zero, which taken to the extreme looks like, say, Pol Pot's killing fields, which he did in order to start history from ground zero, forgetting all the mistakes of the past. Now, in our modern society, granted we don't have that kind of extreme destruction of past history, we're seeing a prevalence of tattoos and piercings and all sorts of almost ritual practices that are primitive. And what Judaism brought to the world centuries, millennia ago, is the reversal of primitive ideas and the beginning of civilized ideas and structural ideas. Relationship with God, rules, 10 Commandments, family that is monogamous rather than polygamous, up to organized cities rather than roaming bands. All these things that have resulted in this wonderful world in the Western Hemisphere that we enjoy today. And so much of the hedonistic crowd is trying to tear down these rules and these mores and these things that prevent fun. Why define marriage as man and woman when it can be anyone, including dogs and kittens and lizards? Why have some drugs illegal when wine is legal? Let's just party. So Barak is absolutely right. Judaism, by its nature, exists to tell human beings, no, you can't have all the fun you want. If you do, the structures that keep you safe in a civilized society eventually degrade and collapse.
And Ari, there is an interpretation out there in the scholarly world. I'm having a mental lapse in terms of one specific author, but that anti-Semitism actually derives from the resentment and hatred of the Jews because they gave the world conscience.
I was going to say that
That's
because
exactly right.
Hitler said that.
Yeah.
Hitler said the Jews
Yeah.
invented conscience.
Yeah.
No, and just picking up on that,
Yeah.
I was going to actually open. It's funny you said that.
Yeah.
See, great minds think alike.
Okay, Jeff.
I just wanted
Yeah.
to say that in a way, that really nails it because Hitler said the Jews invented conscience. I mean, if you really think about that, as Hamlet referring back said, conscience doth make cowards of
Yeah.
us all, isn't the whole idea, the great division between the Republican Party and the Democratic Party could be boiled down to that single concept, which is the Republicans say the individual's responsible for his actions, and the Democrats say, no, no one is responsible for their actions. And that government has to protect people because we're just a bunch of robots bouncing around. We're not responsible for anything we do.
Yeah.
And leftist Jews have, for whatever reason, I guess, so it's an evolution. I think it comes out of the Reform movement in Germany, maybe some socialism thrown in there in Jewish culture. And they moved to the left and they've embraced that idea that no one is responsible for their actions, which is the complete antithesis of everything Judaism stands for. Because what do we do on Yom Kippur? We atone for our actions before God.
And because people, have a chip on their shoulder and hate the rules, and when I say people, many people, the left-wing Jew is the guy that wants to say, hey, I'm not that guy, I'm not associated with this.
It's a very powerful thing what you just said,
Yeah.
that lack of association. They want to be the cool person. They want to show that I'm just like you.
Yeah.
And remember, coming out of the Holocaust, it was a great shakeup of all of Jewish culture. There was a sense of, maybe we brought this upon ourselves. We made ourselves so different from the rest of society.
Yeah.
Who can blame them for attacking us? Obviously, they shouldn't have done what they did, but the anti-Semitism, they felt it was a response to our effort to be different from them. and the world resented them for that. But it wasn't so.
Gentlemen, we're running out of time. I want to get to something here. Let's touch a little bit on this. Ari, let's begin with you. What is a Jew, and what kind of a Jew are you?
In clinical definitions, a Jew is either a member of a certain race or of a certain religion. In my opinion, I think the definition is extended a little bit to mean someone who is in fidelity with the laws of God, the Ten Commandments. Most importantly, the first commandment, which is there is one God, and God wants us to be good, and God wants us to be free. So I extend it out to people who, like what Aaron was saying, have a fidelity with individual rights and individual freedom within the context that part and parcel of those freedoms, certain responsibilities are required of us to both preserve and enjoy those freedoms.
If it's not too much prying, could you describe briefly your own Jewishness?
Sure, and it goes along with, in parallel with my journey from being a brain-dead communist to being a right-thinking conservative, which is, back when I was a leftist, I wanted to control people. I wanted everyone to do exactly as I thought would be ideal for the world, and I'd always ask myself, why won't people just do what I think they should do? What is wrong with these people?
You must have been really pleasant to hang around.
I was
okay, but go ahead.
Complete jerk.
Yeah. And but just wait. So Ari, so the movement from left to right is also a movement towards a more appreciation of the Torah and Judaism at the
And
same
of
time.
God, and
Right.
of God, understanding that God made all of these brothers and sisters I have, and that God gave them freedom to be as they are.
Are you religious?
Yes.
Okay. I don't want to pull any teeth here. I think this is sufficient. Aaron, the same question.
Can you repeat, please, just so?
What, in your view, what is a Jew, and what kind of a Jewish person are you?
Well, a Jew to me would be somebody who, to me, one of the key factors in it is the covenant between Abraham and God. So to me, that's a seminal moment in Judaism, and that's why I call myself a Abrahamic Jew, because I'm not so much a synagogue-going Jew, but I certainly recognize the covenant. I think there's a special and unique destiny for Jews. And it's funny, there's a story actually, Queen Victoria once asked Disraeli, she had a very close relationship with him, and she said, do you have a proof of God? And he said, yes, Your Highness, the Jews. And to me, that encapsulates it. There's something, I mean, just the way the world reacts to Jews, the obsession with Jews. I mean, we're like 14 million people in a I don't know what the population is, but it's 5 billion people. People where there aren't even Jews are obsessed with Jews. I mean, it's something that goes beyond all rationale. So,
But at the epicenter of your Jewishness and how you view Jewishness is the covenant and between God and Abraham. And my question to you is, was this looming very much in your mind when you were a left-wing Jew?
well, I've always been aware of that covenant, but I mean, I guess as I've matured, it means more to me now.
So maturity and a more recognition and respect for the covenant led you out of the left.
Right.
Right? Okay, so we see a pattern here. Barak?
To me, the Jew is that person who was chosen by God to have an obligation to reveal and to share the Torah and the obligations of the Ten Commandments. That's what the Jew's job is. That's who the Jew is. And it's through a long line of people and generations to come. And God didn't choose the whole world to be chosen. He chose a small group of people that will always be small. And hence the obsession that Aaron's talking about.
I want to interrupt for one quick second. I apologize for this, but a lot of people think, oh, the Jews chosen people. They think, they think that God lets them throw parties and gives them all this money or whatever.
Oh,
whatever
only,
this is.
if only.
But what you just said, it actually comes with a lot of obligation and burdens.
Yeah, we are that older boy, for example, who must take care of the younger siblings and show them, here, look, this is what we need to do. I know we want to play. Sorry, can't do it. We got to take care of the house.
Yeah.
That's what the Jew is. And it's a burden. It's a real burden. And we suffer for it. Now, to answer your question about my own personal
Yeah.
journey, I guess, I came to God first I was an atheist, but I came to God through the science. It was very difficult for me to escape the fact that the probabilities were just inescapable that there is a divine ruler of the universe. Once I got there, I began to also understand the wisdom of Torah as well and realize that it must be true, also for scientific reasons. The brilliance and the wisdom of it is also inescapable. And so I've embraced it. It really has brought great happiness and great clarity as a result.
Thank you, gentlemen. It's an
I was going to say we sound like Jewish evangelicals.
it's an honor to be with three very wise men who are sharing very profound wisdom with us in our last few minutes. You don't necessarily have to do what Ari was saying earlier, is telling people what to do. But let's end with this, because we just have a couple minutes left, just briefly from each of you. We're entering a period where Israel is under such danger, where the American leadership at the moment has betrayed Israel. I think that Israel is alone. I think in many respects Jewish people are alone. We have an army, soldiers and police actually trying to protect synagogues in France. When you think of left-wing Jews in your head, in your family, in your community, before you go, perhaps you can look at the camera and pretend you're speaking to them. Mm-hmm. What would you tell them to perhaps reflect upon as we enter this very scary and dangerous time for everyone, but especially, I would say, for Christians and for the topic that we're here today, for Jews and for Israelis? Aaron?
Ari.
Excuse me.
He's Aaron. I'm Ari.
Ari.
Thank you. Well, although if I'm speaking directly to those left-wing Jews, I'll just say it right out. Government will not protect you. Barack Obama will not protect you, and the Democrat Party will not protect you. You must protect yourself. And whether it means, I'm not telling you to go all doomsday prepper necessarily, although that wouldn't hurt, but you should definitely look into buying guns, and you should look into learning how to defend yourself and understand that the world, even in pockets of America, like Europe, is becoming increasingly hostile to you and your people and your family, especially on your local college campus. And you should be aware of that. And you should start taking a hard look at all the things the Democrat Party has promised you and realizing, I'm just going to tell you flat out, they're all lies. And they don't care about you. And although the Republican Party is human beings who are as flawed as any other, they at least care about you more than the party you've been voting for and being deceived by.
Aaron Shuster.
Well, I would say that this is a very important time to choose and to really meditate deeply on where your associations lie. What's important to you? Is it to a party? Is it to a people? What are your values? What do you care about? What are your basic values that you care about most? And now is a very important time to decide. You see our president castigating Prime Minister Netanyahu because he wants to talk to Congress about the dangers of Iran developing a nuclear bomb. In fact, today I just was sent a news item that they're developing a submarine with long distance capabilities. So put the pieces together. Get away from the political dimensions of loyalty to one party or another. This is really a question of survival. And I think the world's beginning to see that what Israel's been dealing with for the last 70 or 80 years, really, even more, till the 20s, when Jewish places like Hebron were attacked, that this is not about Israel. They're not shooting Jews in Paris because of Israel. They're not shooting Jews in Copenhagen because of Israel. So it's an important time for you to make a decision.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Aaron. And we end with the new Buddha of wisdom.
It's all right.
The new Buddha of wisdom
All
of the
right.
Glazov gang.
Okay.
Barak. Lurie gets the last word.
I'll put it very simply. Without Israel, we cannot be the Jews that we are today. Thank you.
Aaron Shuster, Barak Lurie, and Ari David. Thank you for joining the Glazov gang.
Thank you,
for
Jamie.
having us.
We'll see you next week. Good night.